Welcome to FireTalk. We give you the latest updates on Southeastern University athletics. I'm Ken Ingle, president of Southeastern University. Our trusty co-host, Drew Watson, is out of town, so it's a privilege to have with us our director of athletic communications, Donnie Smith. Donnie, great to have you here today. How you doing?
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's an exciting week. It's a busy week, with a lot going on for homecoming. Get to bring back some great alumni and treat them well over the weekend with a lot of home games.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting weekend, and love to see what all that. And we're going to talk about all that here in just a minute. But it's going to be great. It's such an exciting time for our campus community when we do have homecoming, and so many, as you said, come back, and it's all a great time to celebrate our incredible SU alumni. With that in mind, our guest today, joining us on Fire Talk, is one of our alumni student athletes, Augie Schmidt. How you doing, Augie?
Great.
Great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man, a privilege to have you back on campus. It's certainly an honor for us to host you and hear a little bit about what's going on. Tell us a little bit about, your career right now, your family. Just give us an update.
Yeah, for sure. So how many years it's been since I've been out of Southeastern? Hard to count.
17?
Yeah, so 17. I did undergrad in 16, master's in 18, and left with a business degree here and a master's in business, and then got into the commercial real estate realm. So been in that ever since and changed roles a little bit in commercial real estate, but beautiful family, very blessed. I have a beautiful wife, Brittany, and then we have 3 kids. So we have AJ, who's 8, Balin, my daughter, is 6, and then Maverick, he's the baby at 8 months old.
Wow.
So very blessed, man. Yeah.
That's incredible.
So commercial real estate, what was the interest there? Tell us a little bit more about how you got into that side of the world.
Yeah. So the way that it started, I was always interested in real estate, and most people are, and it's no secret that real estate is a great wealth building tool. And so I've always been interested in it from a young kid, but really commercial real estate, and like many people, we just don't give it too much thought or really don't know what it is. And to explain it in a nutshell, it's everything that's not a residence. And it gets confusing because you have multifamily properties, and that's a lot of residences, but big apartment complexes. But I never really gave commercial real estate much thought, but was always very interested in real estate in general. And I had that interest coming out of college and really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And it was pretty crazy of how I got into the business because our season just ended. We just lost up at Lindsey Wilson. Yeah. And I went back all of a sudden, when my football career was over after playing 5 years here. It was like I had the ability to take on like 3 full-time jobs. I had all the time in the world, and was used to a slam schedule. So immediately it's like, okay, like, hey, I'm a senior, doing my master's online, and let's go start to look for a job. And in the meantime, I went back to work for facilities and work in landscaping, and I did that every summer here. It was an easy, job for, I would say not easy, but easier to get. They always needed, young, strong guys to be in the landscaping department and do facilities. So me and a bunch of other teammates would do that during the summer. And I went and did that right after the football career ended. So I was doing that and then trying to find employment. And it was really crazy how it happened to get into commercial real estate because I talked to a good buddy of mine, Sanoa Lawson, who also played here. And my favorite tagline about Sanoa is that he's scored the first touchdown in school history, but it was in the third quarter. So that was a hard game for us, and trick play too. But we got it. But Sanoa is a really great friend of mine. Was in my wedding, and he was an intern at a local commercial real estate firm. And we really didn't talk too much before this, but I was doing the landscape and looking for a job, and I was really, really distraught and just upset. Like I was, playing the comparison game. I'm seeing all my other friends go sign big jobs, and I was really down on myself. And I ended up going home and praying really hard for a job. And it was still one of the craziest things to this day was the second that we got done praying, amen, ding, phone goes off. And Sanoa said, it was like 10 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. And I was like, hey, bro, he's like, I might have an opportunity for you. Call me tomorrow. And I was like, I'm up right now. Can you talk right now? And all in all, so got my foot in the door as a research analyst at a local commercial real estate firm. And then, from there, I knew my gifts and abilities were more aligned to go sell commercial real estate. So did the research role for a couple of years, but then got licensed and then ended up, starting to sell commercial real estate.
Yeah, that's awesome. How's the economy affecting that right now?
Yeah, so the headlines, what you'll read on commercial real estate is that commercial real estate, there's a big downfall or there's a big slump, and people ask me about this all the time, and I say if you're an office building in a tertiary market or in California, then yes, it's not looking good.
Okay.
But the other different types of commercial real estate, really there's 4 in total. So the others are retail assets, multifamily assets, and industrial properties. So all of those assets, it makes up more than probably 80% of the commercial real estate sector. All of those are still very strong, and there's not much concern there. I mean, I think interest rates have done exactly what they were designed to do, and raising interest rates. So it slowed things down some, but overall, in the overall like commercial real estate sector, things seem to be good.
That's awesome. Let's talk football. 10 years ago, you're a part of the very first Fire football team. Tell us a little bit about what led you to commit to SU, especially when there was no football team at the time. I mean, how did that motivate you?
Yeah. So funny story. I actually, out of high school, I played here locally at Lake Gibson up on the north side of town, and always, wanted to stay home and wanted to be, close by. And I actually wrote football off for a period of time until I realized God had different plans for my life. And I just knew the calling on my life was to go to school and to play football. And through college, when all the other odds, it just didn't seem that was going to happen. And then fast forward, I end up, looking at schools and talking to a few, and I ended up talking to Warner. And I went on a tour and met the coaching staff, and the coaching staff was great. The location kind of was a big turnoff for me, and it was kind of out in the middle of the desert, but I didn't have many options to go play college football. So the plan was to try out or do a walk on there, and I actually was looking for places to train here in Lakeland because they were doing like a combine, 40-yard dash, the eye drill, and a few other things. And I was looking for a place to train here close to home, and I was driving through Longfellow one day, and I really didn't know much about Southeastern growing up on the north side of town. I knew it was here, but I actually went out to the soccer field, which is now the stadium,
right,
and I just set up cones, and I started running around in the field. And then somebody had came out to me, and they said oh, hey, are you, because I was, not having football as a sport at the time. I was 6'2", 290 pounds. They saw me running drills out there, and they're like, you don't play any sports here. There's no sports that really fit your body type. So they asked me, they said, oh, are you one of the new incoming football players? And I was like, no. I was like, I didn't know you guys had a football team. And so then it started to go from there, and ended up getting connected with Coach Bearfield and Coach Richie Marsh as well. And that's where the conversation started. So.
Let's talk Bonnie Park. Coach Bearfield was a big Bear Bryant fan and admirer. Bear Bryant had the Junction Boys when he was at Texas A&M, and then Coach Bearfield had the Bonnie Park Boys, named after where you guys first started. Talk about those practices. I guess they were football practices. I didn't see a football out there very much, so I was confused in my first year. But walk us through how that helped develop kind of the character of this team, if you will.
Yeah, and also to answer a little more on Dr. Ingle's question was, Bearfield did an incredible job on selling the vision. So when at that soccer field, I started to talk to the coaches, and then I had a meeting with Coach Bearfield, and he took me up to the 3rd floor of Destino, where his office was, and then he took me out on the balcony and just showed me the soccer field and said, this is where our stadium's going to be. We're going to build a big stadium, and it's it's going to be great. And I'm just like, okay, maybe, hopefully. So he really sold me on the vision, and then from there, they had the vision, and then ultimately the backing of the university, and we can talk maybe more about that later. But that's one thing that I think was just drastically different between Southeastern and any other school we played against. The people that were making the decisions to bring football on campus, you guys were really behind it.
Yep.
Really behind it. You can say you want to do something, and you say we'll allocate a little bit of money towards this or whatever. Or you're going to say, we're going to do this, and it's going to be great. And you guys made it great. So from there, we start the program, and then we go to Bonnie Park. That's kind of where we start practices at, and everything was kind of just, at first it's like you don't have real facilities. It took time to build the weight room and the stadium and all these things. So yeah, we had kegs full of water out there. At least I believe they were full of water. I know they're heavy, but sandbags and all types of drills that we were running out at Bonnie Park, and that is where, as you were saying, like with Bear Bryant, it's that's where the tone, I believe, of the program was set.
Right.
And that's, when people ask me about the program and how we got to, a couple conference championships in a short period of time, and I said, like, the starting point of which we started at was probably, years beyond many other programs when they first start. And a lot of that was simply the caliber of coaches that were brought in, but also the intensity and the standard. The standard was incredibly high. And that's one thing I'll never forget is, we always had players coming in here that they were studs in high school. They were incredible football players, and they thought, like, hey, I'm just going to walk on and be the star of the team. And like, those guys end up being second, third string or not playing at all because the competition was crazy, and everybody's extremely hungry and new program, and the coaches really set the tone at Bonnie Park. So, those workouts were pretty brutal, and yeah, like I said, I think ultimately it wasn't a lot of hoorah. It wasn't a lot of talk. It was a whole lot of work, and that, like I said, really set the standard in my eyes for the program. So then, when we have the stadium, when we have the nice weight room, when we have all these things, it's like, hey, we're not rooted in these like shiny objects or material things. Like, we're going to be a dang good football team, and we're going to go steamroll the opponent. So that's what we're about.
And you did. I mean, my goodness, as a player, you won 3 conference championships.
Yeah.
What do you think was? And that's extraordinary for a young start program like that. And so, what do you think were the keys to that early success?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is the standard that was set and coming in at such a higher level, because most startup programs, it's like, hey, let us figure this thing out, for the first couple of years. And that's the expectation. If you expect to go in there and just like play games and like, hey, we just want to have all the equipment, we just want to go compete, we want to have a full roster and like, just play and be certified to play in the NAI and get games done. That wasn't what we were about. Like, all that stuff obviously had to be done, but the standard was that we're going to win football games, and we're going to compete at a very high level, and that was the thing of starting out that first year. I can't remember how many ranked opponents we had that first year, but I know Faulkner being the first game.
Right.
I want to say they were 19.
They were 10th.
The 10th? Okay, yeah. So I'll never forget that game. That was, going from high school and then skipping a year to kind of do the redshirt thing and train, for an entire year here, and then to walk onto that campus and play some of those guys. I'll never forget, like, the defensive ends that you face in high school are like, the good ones are like 6 foot to 6'2", 230, 250 pounds and like decently filled out. Those are the good defensive ends in high school. And they ran a 3-4, so they had a little bit bigger defensive ends. But the guy we lined up across from, one of them was 6'5", 310 pounds, and the other was 6'3", 330. And these are the ends. And like, I want to say he told me he was like 27 years old and had a kid, and I was just like, this is I'm 19. I'm like, this is a grown man lining across from me. So the way the schedule was stacked, the standard coming in, and like to go through that first year and like and play a number 10 team, and didn't do well the first half, but ended up fighting and scratching and clawing back for the second half. But ultimately, like I said, the year of incredible hard work we put in the beginning, the standard that the coaches set, and really like from Southeastern, like that's a standard that the university has. And I think that's what Bearfield knew coming in, because he had a job to do, and you all hired him to do a job. But ultimately, from the top down, it's like, we know, and he knew especially the standard of the university. I think, Drew and you guys, like, it was, the standard was not to just like play games. The standard was to establish an incredible program, and it's exactly what you guys did. So
good.
Yeah. Unshakable faith, unbreakable brotherhood.
Yeah.
Tell us what that means to you and how that came to be.
Yeah. So I actually came back here for spring and fall practice, and when I heard him break it down on that, it was incredible. It was awesome. It was awesome to hear that that's still rooted here at the culture, and I think that sums up, what I'm talking about, the standard that's been set, and what we're talking about and thinking with how do we compete at this high level of playing football, and the standard that the coaches set. While we talk about that, that term didn't come up until year 3 or year 4 of playing games. So some people think it happened at the very beginning. And I talked to, when we did our 10-year anniversary for the football team, I talked a little bit about this, but really the unshakable faith and unbreakable brotherhood, that was set in the beginning. So that was the standard, that was the bond. So like that slogan, even though it wasn't like nobody said it yet, that was what we were for years before that. So you build it, and then it was like, hey, let's put a name on it. And then that's ultimately what we did at that. I want to say it was my senior year, but to see that is still rooted in this culture and in football today, it's incredible. And like I was saying, because it's hey, while the standard is to go win great football games and do well here, coaches, staff, and the very first meeting we had, it was very, very clear that we are here to raise you as young men in Christ. Yeah. And that gives me chills, because that is something that I am most grateful for in this program. That's what's most important about this program. And I believe that's what that sums up, is not only the standard that we're going to set athletically, academically, but spiritually and personally, because as we all know, like these young men that are coming in here, it is 18, 19, 20 years old. It's a time in their life where a lot of direction's needed, and that being the true and the top priority, absolutely. Raising young men in Christ, that's incredibly meaningful.
Yeah. And as you do reflect over your time at SCU, how did God use these years to shape you, to mold you in who you are today and the success that He's blessed you with?
Yeah, no, good question. I would say the first thing was I was a new believer when I came to Southeastern. And when I got to Southeastern, my perspective of Christianity, and specifically men in Christianity, because I was a young man and becoming a man, and my perspective, I really didn't know what to think. I think culture can sometimes call it weak or soft or things like this. And when I got to Southeastern, I immediately saw men of God, and one of them was yourself, Chris Owen. I saw on stage. I saw Drew, and I saw all these other men around me that were, much older than me, and they had families. They were successful in their careers. They were really cool guys, and that was one of the things. Like sometimes culture can say, or culture I thought previously that like Christianity was corny or not cool or whatever. And I looked at you guys and like the Chris Owens of the world, and I said, these guys are cool. These guys are really cool, and they have beautiful families, and they're very successful in their careers, and they really seem like they're having a lot of fun. Like, this is cool. And I was a brand new Christian, and to see men of God live out their calling, and just spread the gospel wherever they go, and how they live their life every single day, that was the most impactful thing for me. And I would say that is the number one thing that I took away from this university. And ultimately, like the success, and it's the definition of success, that could be a whole nother conversation, but I would say that I'm most successful because of that. And because, how I can lead my family, how I can love my bride, how I can raise my kids in the light of the Lord. And when hardships arise, when things don't go your way, when you're down at halftime, when whether it's financial aid or grades or so-and-so, somebody kicked off the team or something happens, and how you deal with adversity, how you look darkness in the eyes, and if you're a man of Christ, and how you deal with those things. So those are the most important things that I would say has contributed to my success as a man of Christ. And like I said, first and foremost, the family and me raising my kids, that's what's most important to me, and how I lead my family, and then ultimately how I operate in the community. And what we do for work and what we do for business is important, and I like to make that as a great contribution to the community and the organizations we like to support. And we're having a lot of fun in business, and we're doing well, and we're having really good impact there. But really, just like I said, doing everything from a gospel perspective, and always pointing back to Christ, knowing that I can't do anything without Him, is really what I've taken. That's how the university has molded me to the man of God I am today.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. If we were to, we'll give you a wrap-up question. If we were to pull all the freshman student athletes together at Southeastern, load them up into Buena Vista East, and Augie Schmidt's going to be the featured speaker, what's the piece of advice that you give that group?
That's a good question. So I would say to pay attention and dig really deep in the areas of personal development and spiritual development. And kind of a little bit of what I just touched on is what I've told some of those football guys before is on the football field, and in the football field, the weight room, mostly in that chapel. Those are the three areas on campus that I've made the biggest strides personally, professionally, spiritually. That has what shaped me into the man that I am today. So what I would tell the freshmen on the freshman class on campus is to dig deep into those different areas and the things that the university is doing, and whether it's the Bible studies or whether it's chapel, and digging deep into the person that God is calling you to be. And in using this time, most students don't have other financial responsibilities. Most of them don't have other, like, at least full-time jobs or kids or things like that. So this is a time that's very special, and just don't waste it. I think unfortunately, a lot of kids and probably a lot of universities across the country, it's time to go have fun and party and do all those things. But what you guys are doing here at Southeastern is incredibly special, and it's a very, very it's a gift for these kids, and I hope and pray that they can just lean into that, seize it, and they dig in, they reach out to mentors. I know all the like the RDs and all the people that are wanting to pour into them, that like I said, they kind of let their guard down a bit and get that from the university, dig into who God is calling them to be, and just fully step into that.
Yeah, powerful advice, powerful wisdom, and you are evidence that you have followed that. And man, God's blessed you. God's blessed you with a great family, great career, and just grateful for you and the contribution you're making to our culture, our community, our world. It's just significant. Thank you for coming today. Yeah. We're honored to have you here and to be on the show. And once again, just to hear your amazing story and all that God's done. So,
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Augie. Yeah.
Well, Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Between work and to-do list, Publix knows your time is valuable. Let them help you regain time in your day by delivering groceries to your door. Make sure you learn more at Publix.com/shop. I think it's a great service that Publix is providing.
Absolutely. I think in just kind of wrapping up the conversation with Augie, you think back to all the work that went into building this football program, all the meetings, all the late nights, the lightning delays.
Yes.
To visit with a guy like Augie all these years later after he's left the program, to hear the impact that it's made, all the mentors that he developed here, it really makes all that worth it and so much more special.
Absolutely. That's, love hearing those stories and everything that we were intentional in doing and setting out. We see it came to life, and it was applied. So
absolutely
powerful. Well, let's jump into our sports of the week. Let's jump right into starting with volleyball. The team is sitting at second in the Sun Conference. They have an 8-2 record, 17-4 overall, with their only conference loss being to number 23 St. Thomas. We continue to have this amazing year. How did we do last week?
Yeah, last week went 1-1, picked up a big win over Weber International. I think what I was most impressed with in that game in the home contest is it was back and forth in the first set, pretty tight all the way through, and then finally just kind of stepped up and made some plays on defense, which kind of helped spurt our offense a little bit and take that first set and got us to a sweep. Things got a little tight there in the third set, had to fight back again. So just seeing some of that upperclassmen grit after having gone through so much and just knowing what to expect, I think has kind of paid dividends. Tough one on Saturday against St. Thomas, again, number 23 in the country, so a very solid program. But I think the way that things are shaping up, we'll get a third shot at them. It's very, very difficult to beat a team 3 times in a season.
Sure.
So we'll probably be seeing them in the postseason at some point.
Yeah, and I was glad to see another win at home. It was great. But what were some of the highlights of that matchup?
Yeah, and you talk about the home game. The crowds have been great.
Yeah.
The student support's been outstanding. I think 17-4 will help that. Those kids are on campus a lot, so have developed a lot of relationships and have gotten people out to the gym. Grace Petty's having a great season for us, probably an all-conference candidate, had 12 kills in that contest. And just as a team, the way that they were able to hit and attack the ball, 44 total kills, a .339 attacking percentage. Cambry Pope added to the offense and also helped out on defense with 15 digs. And Allie Postlethwaite, another big game setting with 37 assists and contributed on defense as well with 12 digs.
Yeah. And our motivation should be we got to beat St. Thomas.
Yeah.
We got to beat St. Thomas. So, because they've been pretty dominant.
Yeah, and like you said, that's been the only blip so far on the Sun Conference schedule. So the good news is there we've probably got 7 sets of film to look back on, and as we go into the conference tournament, you've got to take it one game at a time. But that's going to be a key focus in trying to figure out a strategy to defend their high-powered offense and figure out a way to get something going against their block.
Yeah, what's up next for the team?
Yeah, a couple matches this week. Today they're going to be heading down to take on Warner, and then coming up on Saturday they'll be at home for the whiteout game. So make sure if you're coming to the game at 2 o'clock against Kaiser, you're wearing white. That'll be the theme all homecoming. Kaiser, we played really well down at their place, so they're probably going to come in a little sour, trying to get that taste out of their mouth and try and respond from a tough loss at their place. We hit really well, probably the best we've ever hit in a Sun Conference match going back to 2009. So we're going to need another big offensive effort. We're going to need another big crowd there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk football. We had our first loss in the Sun Conference play, losing to number 6 Kaiser, big score, 51-21. What do you think went wrong from your point of view?
Yeah, in talking with Coach Waugh after the game, it just kind of avalanched pretty quick. Slow start on one side of the ball, and then Kaiser gets a big play. We get stopped, get a turnover. They make another big play, and all of a sudden you're down 2 scores, down 27 at halftime, and that's a big hole to dig out of. And then finally, once we kind of got something going on offense, got some stops on defense, just a little too late. I think the encouraging part was seeing so many young players on defense late in that game against the number 7 team. They were able to step up and show that they belonged and fit in and get some valuable experience as they get ready to move forward. So the score is a little tough. It's always tough to take the loss, but I think there's some positives that they can take out of it, especially with some of the young guys that they saw that got some key minutes there late on and also found a way to move the ball there late in the contest.
Yeah. So what's up next?
Got another tough one, homecoming night, so hopefully a big crowd when we take on Florida Memorial. They actually average the 9th most yards in all of NCAA or NAIA football. So only LSU, Oregon, 6 Division III teams, and Central Missouri average more yards per game than Florida Memorial. So our defense has their work cut out for them. We're going to need to find a way to get started early, especially on offense. And defense is going to need to slow down this attack a little bit and get the ball back.
Yeah. Now, where are they in the Sun Conference?
They're tied with us for second place. So us, St. Thomas, and Florida Memorial all at 3-1 in the league.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll see what happens Saturday night, so we want to make sure everybody comes out for that game. Let's talk about women's soccer. We took down Weber 2-1 on Saturday as our seniors were honored. Tell us a little bit about that game.
Yeah, nice bounce back game. Tough loss at Kaiser on Wednesday. Ended up getting a little banged up in that game, and you're getting late into the season, so everybody's kind of dealing with some issues and some soreness a little bit. So just impressed at the way they were able to battle back on Saturday in a rivalry game, a team that's always going to play you tough, kind of pack it in defensively, so going to limit the opportunities. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights from that game on Saturday against Weber International. Actually found ourselves down a goal early on. What was unique, and this is always something I enjoy about our games, is on senior night, when somebody that you honor before the game makes a play like that, going right around the defender and tying the game at 1. That's one of my favorite moments. You're playing one of your last games on campus, so it's a 1-1 game, down to about 37 minutes to go, and then Ariadna Lozano takes advantage of a mistake and finds the game-winning goal.
Wow.
So a great play by a senior, and then a sophomore is able to catch up and just apply some additional pressure, force a mistake, and take advantage of it.
Yeah. What about the Kaiser game?
Kaiser game was tough. Again, they were in a bad mood after we beat them 2-0 at our place, so they came in with a lot to prove. Got a goal early from Madeline Davidson, just unable to sustain it on a hot day in West Palm Beach, and again ended up a little shorthanded at the end of that game. But again, those are 2 top 25 teams. We're still sitting at 13th in the latest poll that came out today, so just trying to keep pace a little bit, and really a chance to wrap up a regular season championship this week if we get a favorable result and a win on Saturday.
Yeah, so what is on tap again this week?
Yeah, so team on their way right now to take on Florida Memorial in Miami Gardens. Shout out to Bus 35, all of our loyal listeners there tuned in. And then a home game on Saturday against SCAD, who's number 5 in the latest poll. With the right result, we have a chance at winning the regular season championship.
All right, let's move on to men's soccer. Fire went 1-1 on the week, I think, right?
Yep.
And we had a 4-1 win at Weber International on Saturday, but then dropped to number 17 Kaiser 2-1 last Wednesday.
Yeah, again, the team responding in a big way, just like we talked about with the women's team. Just had some struggles on offense in that Kaiser game. Ended up playing the last 45 minutes down a man due to a red card in the contest. So really a one-goal game against a number 17 team playing with 10 on the field. I think you probably take that, but I think, in talking to Coach Clay a little bit after the game, there was still some frustration because there were some opportunities even to score shorthanded and either win or tie that contest. So teams trying to put it back together this week. Big one tonight as they host Florida Memorial. That'll be senior day. Big senior class for that group. A handful of graduate students and some others that are in their 4th year will be honored before the contest. And then they'll travel to SCAD on Saturday to wrap up the regular season.
So that put them at 9-4-2 overall, right?
9-4-2.
And 7-4-1 in Sun Conference play.
Yep, sitting at 3rd.
Excellent. Let's talk about golf. Women and men's golf. What took place?
I got nervous when you said let's talk about golf. Were you going to talk about my golf game? Because let's not do that.
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't want to talk about mine either. So
no, Fire Golf. They look great right now. Coming off a big win, kind of put it back together after some early struggles in the fall season. Both the men's and women's won the Gyrene Invitational down at Ave Maria in the Naples area. Marley Schmidt tied for first, lost the tiebreaker, but still it counts as a win for her. And then Matthew Sosanek, who's trying to become our first 4-time All-American, played really well, had a 5-shot victory. So it seems like they've kind of put things back on track. An exciting weekend coming up for them next week, too.
Yeah, that's great. Looking forward to that. Let's talk cross-country. Heard we had a good weekend in the NAIA Appalachian Challenge last week.
Yeah, last chance to kind of put some things together for the conference championship, run against the number 1 team in the country in Milligan and kind of see where we stack up. Men's team looks solid. John Perez Dunn shaved a 2nd off of his school record. Women's team had one of their best performances of the season. So they're trending the right way. They've got an off week this week, and then they'll head to Ave Maria next Saturday for the conference championship.
Great. Exciting what they're doing. Homecoming. We've got a lot of great things happening on homecoming.
We sure do. Exciting week. We're going to start on Friday Hoops Madness, the Red Black Wrestling Duel. So those are going to go back to back. Chance to see everything there. And then Saturday.
Explain Hoop Madness a little bit. What is that exactly?
I think it originated. You see in the Division I programs like Kentucky does their Big Blue Madness or Midnight Madness. So once the clock hits 12:01 on the NCAA day that you're allowed to actually begin practice, it's a big fan fest open practice. So we decided we'd do that ourselves. So it's not like the X's and O's practice. It's kind of a fun fan gathering. They're going to do a lot of things that are exciting. We've seen dunk contests in the past. I think there's going to be some skits. Just a chance for everybody to get to know the team and get them excited about the upcoming season.
Yeah, so wrestling, some basketball, football. I mean, we've got a lot of things going for homecoming weekend and definitely want everybody out. Let's talk about esports. What's new with esports?
Yeah, big win in FIFA on Monday over Stockton University. So Hector coming up with a 2-0 win there after a 2-1 loss to Gallaudet. I think one neat thing that's been to kind of start covering esports is just the chance to play all these different schools. You're no longer restricted by geography. And, when you're around the business long enough, you get to make friends at other places. So when I see Gallaudet pop up on the schedule, I get to text basically my counterpart over there, Sam, and say, good luck tonight. You're going to need it. So it's neat to kind of build those rivalries elsewhere.
Yeah, so good. Well, that's a wrap for our show today. And Donnie, always appreciate when you can join as co-host. And it's always fun. I want to remind everybody to come out again for our home games this week. We have a Holmes men's soccer match against Florida Memorial. That's tonight at 7. Wrestling will host the Black and Red Duel on Friday at 6 p.m. Hoops Madness takes place at 9 p.m. Women's soccer plays at home in the big matchup on Saturday versus number 5 SCAD. That's at 1 p.m. Volleyball is at home at 2 p.m. And then fire football is 7 p.m. at the stadium.
Yep, just remember it's whiteout weekend for homecoming and check SCUfire.com for all the details.
All right, take care, everybody.